You are listening to an entertainment program put together by a company called Financial Ineptitude. Anything said on this show is not an endorsement or professional advice. Would you really want to tell a court of law you were suing us because you thought taking financial advice from two idiots on a podcast put out by Financial Ineptitude was a good idea? Really? Clown hat smiley face. Was I supposed to say that?
Yep.
Oh, or was I supposed to act that out?
Hello and welcome. You've made it to the China shop. Step right in. The doors are wide open. We've got a special interview episode today. We've got Ed with us from Dchained, Dchained.com. And as always, we're joined by my esteemed senior ghost handler, Kyle Hedman. Kyle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I feel like you recycled that one, though.
Damn it. I don't have the script in front of me. I was just reaching.
You at work?
Yeah.
Get you a new job.
Yeah, we do. And we are also, as I mentioned before, joined by Ed from Dchained. How are you doing today, Ed?
I'm doing well. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you two. And this is the first time we've talked, so I can recycle my jokes. They're new to you.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Good.
Yeah, well, welcome to the China shop. We're here smashing our way around, so feel free to let loose, relax. This is an R-rated show, so say whatever you like, because Kyle and I sure as shit do.
Whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Love it. No better way to end the day.
Right? You want to curse at the heat? Go for it.
Right. Curse this heat. The devil farted thick today.
Gross.
Yeah, sorry. That's from American Dad.
Okay.
Ed, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so I've been involved in cryptocurrency for about a decade, but started the education platform about a year ago. However, the idea came about because I lost my job. So start there. You lose your job and you're on your second to last night on your honeymoon. Turn over and explain that to your then wife. She signed the contract. She couldn't leave, and we're on the same flight from Thailand. So she was stuck.
Sounds like it was the best time for that to happen.
Exactly. It was 4 a.m. when I found out, and I rolled over and I was like, Bloody Mary time. And there was nothing I didn't saw from 6,000 miles away. So, yeah, but as I mentioned, I got involved initially, as an investor for my own purposes about 10 years ago. At the time, the world was a very different place in crypto. There was no Coinbase, there was no Gemini. There actually was no way to actually fund any of these marketplaces with your bank. I had to go to a CVS. I remember this like it was yesterday. A CVS, go to a MoneyGram, ask to move money to someone in the Philippines, and that person would then credit my account at Mt. Gox, which was this marketplace based in Japan, in order for me to buy Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
Which at that time was about $10.
It sounds like a Nigerian Prince scam.
You're right.
To even take part of that.
You know what? I tell people today, and they just cringe. They're like, I can't imagine even fathoming doing this. But how I got started, I was at that same company that I lost my job 5 years later, and a couple of engineers much smarter than me. I was out in Silicon Valley. We're talking about this thing called Bitcoin and a way that you could send payments anonymously. Now, in hindsight, I ask, what were you buying anonymously in 2011? Either you were buying drugs or you were hiring assassins.
Right.
There were two options. But for me, it sort of, I was very interested. I was a bit delusioned also. I was coming out of the housing bubble. And, I wanted to get involved in something that, was a bit different, that was a little bit digital first, because we never really, in sort of the internet world, never really built up a financial system that actually was created for the internet. We had this system that was legacy, old bankers in suits, and ultimately that sort of operated up until this day. But ultimately, what sort of kicked me in the ass a little bit was, again, at that time I was working for a large tech company, and their CEO, Tim Cook, was on Charlie Rose and talked about they were making some big moves into privacy and shutting down anything and everything that related to data. A little bit of a legacy from the thermonuclear war that I think Steve Jobs gave over to him. And me being sort of in this division that was built around ad-supported platforms. At the time, I had just launched Apple Music, which was called iTunes Radio at the time. I knew pretty quickly that the internet world was going to have to change because there was a reckoning. And this was 11 months before Cambridge Analytica. So I had a good inclination. I started building out the framework for what I wanted to do in terms of in the blockchain space. I knew I wanted to do something from an education standpoint because I had a lot of people around me who had no idea that this was going on. But I knew that ultimately it would be extremely impactful and revolutionary. Sort of that feeling I had when I initially joined Apple and they were building out the App Store. So I built this out. It took a few years. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to work from home during COVID and threw caution to the wind.
So right on. You worked for Apple back in the days of innovation then. How do you think their innovation compares now to when you used to work with them?
It's a bank. Yeah, it's as innovative as JP Morgan. It's sort of a scenario. Yeah, sort of a scenario of you innovate just by buying more companies. And I saw the stat, they buy a company every 3 to 4 weeks. It's a company that served me well, but I would like to see a little bit more out of them.
I've kind of felt the same way too. I mean, they came out with the iPhone. What was that, about 10 years ago? Just amazing, blew everything out of the water. And then now, fast forward to where we're at today, and like the most innovative thing they can do is make a few more megapixels in their camera.
Yeah,
you could send animated emojis. Like that's what you got. Like, come on, guys! Like they're the tricorders that everybody really wants to see.
What's the saying is in 2020? No, in 2000 we were promised flying cars and we got 140 characters. Right. Sort of that kind of situation where it's pretty underwhelming. And ultimately, though, this is where, for me, again, I not only drunk the Kool-Aid, I've created it moonshine fashion. So have a heaping, sample yourself. This is where I think blockchain really comes in, especially in today's age where we look at the internet model, at least in the Western world. And I say that because the internet that we have here is very different than in China and in the Middle East. And it's controlled by a select few companies that really store, hoard, and profit on all of that traffic, all of that data. The problem is that as we become more connected, we create more data, and ultimately we start to give a lot of information that could really be harmful to us. And again, not political, but you look at countries like China where you are granted access to certain public services based on merit and ultimately your track record. Have you been a good citizen? That is thing that you could track if you really wanted to. And the solution, though, is how do we continue to innovate without having to require these central repositories from controlling and collecting all that info? And that's where the idea of this distributed network comes in. And ultimately, the way that I frame it really easy, for people who come to our site, because we are not a tech blog. We are not built for that person who's been in the tech industry for 10, 15 years. We're not built for Wall Street people. I grew up in the Bronx. I have family friends, firemen, nurses, teachers. I built this platform for them. And the way that I explain it is this is a new evolution of the internet that we know today that you don't have to know anything about when it comes to how it works. Here's what you need to know. There are companies that are deciding to use this technology in new ways to create new products and services that would not be possible or could not exist in any previous technology. Look at Amazon. When Bezos went from Wall Street and created this new online bookstore, he said it would be impossible to store 3 million books in one central location, but I could do it online.
Right.
And ultimately, it disrupts and creates new industries, and that's ultimately what the opportunity here is, in the crypto space, which is you are identifying companies and buying shares of those companies. Rather than through the NASDAQ, you buy it directly from them. And that's it.
Okay, that's an interesting way to put it. That makes a lot more sense, actually.
I'm not telling you some meme coin bullshit.
Well, we're going to get into that later. So don't worry.
Good. Well, I think you know where I stand on it, just right off the bat.
Yeah, we could tell.
Yeah. I think it's funny that you when you were talking about Bitcoin in 2012, I had a friend showing me and plugging Bitcoin in like 2009, 2010, and it was through the dark web, and it was like on the place where you get hitmen and drugs and whatever it was, and that's what kept me from taking part in it. Was I didn't want to go through all the steps to get on the dark web to trade some money for Bitcoin.
Well, what's funny is if you look at, and I'll go back to this, as we were saying, Apple has this new privacy layer that they're introducing with the new operating system for phones. Mm-hmm. And it works the same exact way that the dark web works. It's relays. It's like mirrors. And ultimately, I send a signal to that place, and then it just bounces. And it's impossible to tell where it came from. And when they announced it, I was in a meeting just laughing because I said, you literally are trying to patent the dark web. This is hysterical. Like there is no bounds anymore to, your how bold you're going to be with this. So
wow.
You're gonna patentor. But yeah, I made a conscious effort to not look at because I sold 6 months after I bought. So it was April 2012. And at that time, there was a lot of talk of the Department of Justice was going to crack down and they were going to find anyone who was holding. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. And I sold, I think it was like $17, $18. I don't know. I think I dislocated my shoulder from patting myself on the back for being so smart with an 80% return. And then I look back and immediately I go on suicide watch.
Oh, at least you actually were able to sell it, though. How many stories do you hear of people who forget the password to their wallets and
you're right.
they got like millions of dollars locked into a hard drive they can't access, and they get 10 chances to try to guess the password.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's well, I mean, we're also talking. We're not talking huge sums of money in 2012, but there were quite a few Bitcoin. So I wish I held on to some. I wish I had the guts.
Yeah.
To challenge the government.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned that the a lot of these coins that are out there, it's almost like you're buying shares in their company. Can you kind of elaborate a little more on that? Like,
yeah, it's a sticky situation because there's a big lawsuit going on right now between the SEC and this tech company called Ripple. Mm-hmm. Little known fact that people don't realize is that XRP, which is called Ripple, is actually was created and controlled by just a financial tech company based out of Silicon Valley.
Oh, that's what XRP is?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a retail fund.
It could be also. But yeah, I mean, this is going back to your question. If you're creating a company and you need funds in order to grow, there's generally, a single path that most companies will follow. They will try to raise friends and family money. then they go up and they try to find another layer of investors who are a little bit more, willing to take on risk, but take a chunk of your company and equity. And then you go to the real vultures, the venture capitalists who, about this time right now, they're sitting up in their coffins, smelling the air, worrying what company they're just going to savage. And they take 30, 40% of your business. And it's one where you kind of need them and they know they need you, but they take a very large chunk of your blood, sweat, and tears.
Sounds like Shark Tank.
It is. It is. And it's these are companies that ultimately, though, could be dream makers or dream crushers, because they can also hear your idea and then all of a sudden magically go tell one of their portfolio companies, hey, did you think about this? But ultimately, this is where this idea of there could be an alternative to that. What if you didn't have to, go to a single person and say, I need your network, I need your finances in order to get this out to potential customers? What if I could just use, a new type of model where I take equity and use that as a marketing tool? So instead of, trying to spend $1 million doing all my filings, going through, different state registries, if I go to a marketplace and say, I'm going to give up 10% of my business to, 1,000 people who will be brand ambassadors and help sell the business and help, promote us. Ultimately, what happens is that those 1,000 people now, as equity holders and sort of skin in the game, they go and they distribute. We're talking about sort of an Herbalife kind of scenario here. Just joking, obviously, that's not a pyramid scheme, but this is, you have a scenario where shareholders are ultimately, vocal brand ambassadors. And it's a unique scenario because you go on social media and these are rabid communities.
Right.
God, I mean, these are groups that, they would die by the sword for these cryptocurrencies because they put, a lot of their time and sort of capital into them. And ultimately what happens is that they fund these new businesses that can then keep more equity to then use for other financing and marketing and growth purposes. So it's just a different type of fundraising that connects shareholders and company executives together a little bit more closely. And it's one that I think has sparked a lot of innovation from companies who may not have the resources to go down the traditional path.
Is that why we're seeing companies like GameStop and even Amazon now, I think we reported last episode, hiring blockchain and crypto experts?
I just made a YouTube video on this.
Oh, okay. We'll need to put the link to the description on that.
Oh, exactly. I just finished filming it this afternoon. So there is a whole new ecosystem that is exploding right now. And it's one in cryptocurrency that is, I could say, independent on whatever the market is currently at. So if you look at, to this point, the last year and a half, the biggest area in cryptocurrency outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum has been these, what they call decentralized finance. So these pseudo financial platforms that you can either borrow, lend. There's a whole bevy of use cases. But ultimately, they're highly correlated to, the stock market, which is ironic because they're supposed to be decentralized. So when the market goes down, or Jerome Powell has a shitty day, they tank. They just tank, and it's obliterated. But you look at something like gaming now, and all of a sudden you find a way to use blockchain to help draw in new types of gamers with the whole lure of you play to earn. And that's a unique concept because, the idea of, earning rewards and getting collectibles is not new. You had that with World of Warcraft, you had that with Counter-Strike, etc. But there were companies behind those games, and those companies governed everything, A through Z. Now you have these new ecosystems where, you can't have a single organization who steps in and says, well, we're not going to allow, these types of collectibles because we're not getting a cut from them, which is a la Apple. But you now have a scenario where people are, going home, whether the market is up or down, and they're playing games. And they're finding ways now where, they're spending their money, especially with more people, spending that time at home, on goods and services in these games. And it's a little depressing to say that, but it's also unique because if you see, just in the month of July, the biggest games the biggest returns are coming from these cryptocurrencies. You have something called AXS, which is Axie Infinity, which is a game that Mark Cuban has invested in. You have something that is wild called Zed Run. I'm going to blow your fucking mind right now with this one. This is a game on blockchain that the number one sort of breeder, because it's a game all about breeding and racing horses, is Wilson Chandler. And all these big NBA stars are starting to now breed horses, digital horses, in this game. It's wild.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And I told you, did I not
I want to play this.
I didn't undersell that. If it's good enough for Wilson Chandler, it is good enough for me. And that's my life motto. You have these virtual sort of lives that people are now creating. And ultimately, there's real money being traded. I think the latest number that I heard was there was something like $100 million that was flowing through some of these top games on a monthly basis, which is crazy. NBA Top Shots, which is just digital collectible cards, digital trading cards, I think cleared $500 million in the last 6 months. Which is it takes a lot of the habits that we've had, going back decades, wanting to play games, sit down, on the couch, with friends and family, collect things, whether it's a trading card, a Pokemon, whatever it is, and ultimately try to, make a little money, try to get a little edge. Now you digitize that, you open the doors where there's no intermediary saying, here are the rules, you need to abide by, certain ways that you could sell and buy, and we need to make a certain percentage if you're actually doing the selling. And you just open it up and it's absolutely exploded. So for any of your listeners, something that you might want to pay attention to or look at, or some of these new gaming ecosystems that are going blockchain.
Mana is one of those, isn't it? Decentraland?
You bet it is, yep. And there's another one called Sand, which is very similar. Very similar concept where you actually will sell your virtual land for this native currency. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
I really want to breed a horse. I can't wait to get off this call now and check that out.
Zed Run.
I'll try not to make the interview suffer.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
When I was talking to you when we were setting up this, we talked a little bit about Powell's comments on I think he was suggesting that there'd be no need for Bitcoin if the federal dollar was digital. I mean, is he just out of the loop, or does he have a point there? Because it seemed to me like the whole point of Bitcoin was to not be tied to any country's currency. Or
yeah, and you don't have to look much further than gold. If you want to draw a parallel to Bitcoin and sort of see what an equivalent would be, it's basically a digital version of gold. What I mean by that is there's a limited supply of this one asset that has fluctuating demand. Now, whether I'm talking about gold, where you can extract from the land, or I talk about Bitcoin, you are looking at something that not a single government in the world issues as legal tender, and ultimately doesn't control, maybe not directly, the distribution and supply of it. That's ultimately sort of the basis of Bitcoin, and also describing gold as well. Coincidentally, for decades, they were both hated by Warren Buffett, which is fun. Until Warren Buffett, ironically, bought the world's second largest gold miner about a year ago. Fun fact.
Really?
Old Uncle Warren. Funny. Funny how when you can make a lot of money, your decades-old opinions change pretty quickly. But when it comes to the U.S. Digital dollar, this is one where it makes sense from a logistics standpoint, from a cost perspective, because it costs quite a bit of money to produce all of these dollar bills and these coins. Mm-hmm. On top of the fact that you could see that there's a growing trend for people, especially after COVID, not wanting to handle money that was sitting in someone else's clammy palms or pockets.
Most likely snorting cocaine with it.
Oh yeah, money is filthy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the problem with Bitcoin is you can't do that.
Damn it.
You can't roll up a Bitcoin. So, and there goes my company.
Yeah, right.
Wait, so I can't make it rain on a stripper using Bitcoin? We got to do something about that.
You can't. Well, you can get those cold wallets and throw it. But
just raining
hard drives in here.
Yeah, that would be a fun one to visit in Atlanta.
Oh my god!
Just take a stack of SD cards and start flipping them on the stage.
Please film that, Dan.
Yeah, this USB drive, baby. Yeah, you'll like that cold wallet when you get home.
You just converted me away from the US digital dollar. I am print these goddamn things forever. They're fun.
They really are, man. I miss collecting coins if they're gone.
I think it's one that we're going down that path. I think we're going to eventually see some form of a digital dollar, especially as these financial institutions are moving more down, the automated blockchain route. We're going to need some type of currency that's a common denominator. Otherwise, you have a scenario where JP Morgan right now has their own stable coin, their own cryptocurrency. You have a few other banks who are in the process of launching theirs. Mm-hmm. That's silly. Every bank having its own currency is crazy to me. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I mean, how many cryptocurrencies are out there now? I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands.
Oh yeah, thousands.
There are. Just like there's a lot of different companies in different sectors, but there's really only a few different stock exchanges. There's only a few different marketplaces, and financial institutions play that role of a marketplace. And if the marketplace is its own currency and can't interact with other marketplaces, then that you don't get a network effect there. You don't get sort of the real value. So you're seeing other countries. Unfortunately, the U.S. is slightly lagging in this area, but they are coming forward with their form of virtual currency, whether that's out of necessity or just sort of innovation. But yeah, I think it's inevitable, but I don't see it taking the place of Bitcoin, just like the U.S. dollar doesn't take place of gold.
Speaking of the South American countries adopting, how's that? Like, what is the process behind that? Like, how do you make the Bitcoin like your national currency?
Well, you have a really shitty economy, and you look for a Hail Mary. So, what's interesting though about it is it sparked a lot of conversation about potentially foreign investment going to that country. There are only a handful of countries in the world where if you're going to set up a crypto business, especially one where money is being passed around, that you could really with confidence set yourself up and not face some pretty hard regulation. You have wonderful countries like Malta and Seychelles, countries I'm sure everyone has been to. And Georgia is another great one. Mm-hmm. And these are countries that investors, especially in the US, don't want to move their money that far. And ultimately to be able to almost reach out and touch, these banks, these institutions that are going to hold those cryptocurrencies is alluring. But what's interesting, why I bring this up is if you read further on their plan for legal tender, it comes with the idea that they're also going to participate in Bitcoin mining. Now, with Bitcoin mining, you need access to cheap you need cheap energy. And the way that they're doing it is tap into volcanoes. It's like a James villain Bond. It's like, I'm going to tap into a volcano to run our crypto mining. It's kind of wild. It's interesting. I can't wait to see how that's going to work out.
I don't think it's going to.
I have my doubts as well. Or it could be, a scenario where, look at Argentina, where the country has been subsidizing electricity. Mm-hmm. So you have citizens saying, well, hell, if it's free electricity, let's just Bitcoin mine.
Right.
And they are consuming more energy in certain pockets of Argentina than entire countries in South America. It's absolutely asinine what is happening, and sort of opportunistic ways of generating income in this world. So it'll be interesting. I think El Salvador is certainly kicking off interest from other countries: Paraguay, Mexico, Brazil. I would imagine you're going to see other countries. South Africa has shown a lot of interest, but the fact is that I don't see Bitcoin being or replacing legal tender in any significant capacity anytime soon.
I mean, I think who was it? Mark Cuban decided to start paying his basketball players with was it Bitcoin or was it Dogecoin?
I think it was Dogecoin, because he is, and I give him credit. He's very active. He's a very large investor in the crypto world, mm-hmm. Especially in emerging tech companies. And I know he's been very outspoken about Doge. Everyone wants to ask him about it. And I think he was jokingly talking about, paying the NBA players in Doge. And it just happened that around that time, Doge went through the roof. And he retracted. He's like, I'm not paying anyone in Doge. I'm not doing that.
I thought he actually was setting up to do that. I don't think it was Doge, but it might have been. It might have been the other one, Bitcoin or Ethereum. But how pissed would you be if your paycheck is the potential to drop, 30% overnight before you can even cash your check?
Oh my God, it's terrifying. And it's a scenario where this is where you need these, stable cryptocurrencies to be able to hold that value for you. Sorry. My 2-year-old in the background. Apologies.
Okay. I thought Dan had a kid when we weren't looking.
No.
This is a scenario where, can you imagine owning a business and your currencies, your cash reserves? Okay, go downstairs. Jesus Christ. Yeah,
oh God, we should have her on.
Right. Does she have her own cold wallet? I'd like to talk to her about her investments.
Exactly. It's all the meme coins.
Meme coins. I want Princess Coin. More Princess Coin.
I need Elsa. Give me more Frozen.
There's got to be an Elsa coin, right?
You know what? If not, it sounds like we just came up with a new business idea.
There we go.
Yeah, right.
But I would be pissed if I was paid in cryptocurrency and I lost 30% overnight. That's everyone's fear. That's the reason I think cryptocurrency in general has been slow to adoption, is the volatility. But there's been new solutions that have come out that have really reduced that to a point where the rate of inflation is a fraction of what it is with the US dollar, just even in the last year. So there's some new alternatives now that have sort of quelled that issue that's existed in the past.
All right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just did the best. I had a 2-year-old who was just losing his mind.
Yeah.
And it was just, all right.
I think that's the first. I mean, we've had chickens on the show, but never a 2-year-old.
Never a baby. No, never a child.
He didn't yell at her, though. I think I think that was another guest.
Oh, not yelling at a child. Yeah.
No, it's okay. There's an attic, and we just put the child in the attic.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. That's not a basement. You got a view.
Yeah.
So, Ed, I have a friend who's an immigrant from India, and I know that their family in India has some money. I mean, I don't know how much, but they've got some money that they don't move over to the States because of the taxes. What do they call it? Excisement. Do people use cryptocurrency to move money like they used to on the dark web? And how can I do that easily? I mean, how would someone do it easily?
Oh, what are the current limitations on entrapment here?
Are you a cop? You have to tell us.
Wait, do I have to tell you if I'm a cop? Shit, I don't know the rules of the game.
That's such a.
I've heard that people move money offshore and onshore using different third-party wallets, and there are different platforms that you could extract your money without many people knowing that where the source came from.
Right, but it requires some extra trickery where there would be no way. If somebody looked at it, they would say, "Well, you were definitely doing it to hide where this money came from." You'd be.
There's about 5 minutes of work. 5 minutes of time that's needed to invest it to learn how to do this. That's a problem that it's really easy, but the risk if you get nailed is
it's
pretty
huge.
stiff. Yeah,
they're going to take the whole pie.
Yeah, they're gonna. And what's interesting is, was it 2 years ago? The IRS is a tricky org. They put on page 1 of everyone's 1040, their tax filing, a question: do you own or trade digital assets or virtual currencies? Yes or no? And that was it. Didn't ask any more questions beyond that. And ultimately, the following year, they then asked that same question, but deep back in one of the schedules, it starts asking you, the value of the cryptocurrencies, et cetera.
Yeah.
And you think, obviously they're looking at people who clearly own cryptocurrency, because the challenge is that you could trade and sort of hide it and flip around and do whatever you got to do, but you got to get the money back into a bank somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of those gateways report, just like a normal bank. Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, they report large deposits to the IRS. So a lot of these people playing with fire who lied in 2019, who again didn't disclose in 2020, you're starting to see, that IRS going from, educator to say, hey, just so you know, this is taxable, to an enforcer. And it's the same exact playbook that they did in 2010 with people with offshore bank accounts. They did like a nice little, do you own an offshore bank account? Following year, same question. The next year, all of a sudden, Tanner and Hudson and Biffy all went to the Met, the Club Med jail, but they went to jail.
Yeah.
They take houses, they take cars, and seeing, some of the companies that they're hiring as consultants, they are looking at cryptocurrency as that way of helping fill some of the deficits, especially with inflated spending that we've had here in the U.S. This is under a microscope. So it's certainly not an area that I would play with, nor will I admit to playing with on your podcast.
Oh, right. No, it's a fun question. That's all.
As someone who runs a business in the crypto world, I'm certainly not. I am not going to implicate myself, but yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you answering the question at all. I honestly thought you would just laugh it off and be like, "Nope, let's not talk about that." I love that we're talking about it, and if you listen to the disclaimer on the show, like this is all, we're just an entertainment show. Like, like we rated our entertainment show. I want to hear if somebody could move money around with crypto. Like, people are talking about it. Like, you're just honest enough to answer and say, well, yeah, you could do it, and look at how they're enforcing it and the fact they beefed up their securities. It's public knowledge that it's happening.
I have an idea.
What's that?
We are going to open up an Atlanta strip club where people throw USB drives, cold wallets onto stage, and then we're going to wash it in that
Yes.
capacity. Boom. You'll never know where it came from.
And then our cut will just be the value of the USB drives.
Exactly.
We're selling the drive.
Yeah.
Because we can't get the cryptocurrency off it.
You'd probably make a lot of money off of that.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about China real quick, because China just recently banned all their miners and mining activities, right? Because I think we were seeing a lot of them start to relocate. I think Miami was one of the cities trying to lure these displaced miners. I think other countries may be trying to lure them in too. But the effects that has on the industry as a whole, are we still seeing those effects? Is that going to get worse before it gets better?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing, truthfully. And it's, by the way, this is not an act that is foreign to China. If you go back, every year and a half, China comes forward with some type of limitation or restriction. And when I say that, you have to think about what the issue at heart really is when it comes to crypto and blockchain, which is you are democratizing information. That is a problem if you're running a communist country and trying to limit information about your regime. If you can't censor information across the blockchain in your country, that could pose some serious issues. So they've been cracking down on it. And what we saw, one of the first waves, was they kicked all the crypto exchanges out. So you saw crypto exchanges like Binance have to leave China, relocate to, well, this is an open-ended question because they keep, new countries keep coming out and claim that they're not registered in their country. So they're supposedly registered in the Cayman, but they're not. You have Wobi, that's a whole nother story. But you saw that the solution at first was kick the exchanges out. Then they said, well, we're gonna kick out the miners because we think Bitcoin mining is really at the heart of the issue. The fact is that Bitcoin, the dominance, the percent that it accounts for now in the overall market is quickly declining. So you are kicking out miners in a currency that is taking a smaller and smaller role in the overall crypto industry.
Right.
Odds are, we are 2 weeks away from a major upgrade to Ethereum, where Ethereum very well could blow past Bitcoin pretty quickly in terms of being the largest. At which point, there is no mining in this new upgrade. So the idea of mining, while I think it's a boon for US companies who can now take on all that extra demand, the idea that mining is going to be a long-term activity, I think is very short-sighted. I think it's really bad for the environment and it's super slow. It's like having a fight that we're going to kick out all the floppy A disk manufacturers from this country, while across the ocean they have CD-ROM.
Yeah.
How old is that? You like those references?
Yeah. Love that.
Wait, was it a 5 3/4 or
3.5?
3.5.
What you got on that floppy B? You got 2 megabytes?
Or 512 KB?
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently not that big of a deal.
It's not. And the thing is, I can foresee, it'll be a very, it'll be a boost to a lot of US-based, Canadian-based, El Salvador, because obviously they're now the hub of crypto. Good for those economies, those companies, but there's a move towards a different type of operating model, one that is a little bit less energy exhaustive. So
right.
So you mentioned the upgrading to Ethereum in a few weeks. I'm not in tune with anything crypto, so please elaborate on that.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we think about Ethereum, easiest way to explain that is similar to how Apple created the App Store, where all these developers could make their own apps, whether you're a business, a government agency, or just making your own health app. You had the framework to build everything on. And that's ultimately what Ethereum did. They built a foundation that leverages all the benefits of blockchain, the whole decentralized benefit, security benefit, the accountability and auditing, which really came into play with NFTs, and ultimately gave the keys to the kingdom to developers to come in and build everything and anything that they wanted. And that's where you saw, these institutions, these entrepreneurs build out, this decentralized finance world to help sort of disrupt and sort of evolve financial institutions. You're seeing that with gaming. You're seeing that with music. And ultimately, though, the issue at hand was that Ethereum never changed the way that it operated. It works the same way today as Bitcoin, where any type of activity that occurs has to happen in sequential order, and it's very slow. And there's only a few different actions that could be added to the blockchain at any given second, compared to something like Visa, which could be in the thousands, or there's other platforms like databases, which is the hundreds of thousands. So it had a scale problem. You can't. It hits an upper limit, and at which point then it becomes expensive because those people who add those actions to the blockchain could charge whatever they wanted. So it became a problem because it cost $200 to move 20 to a friend or family.
Right.
And people are like, this is the future of finance, guys. But now all of a sudden, with this new upgrade, it moves to a new type of operating model where you're not mining, you're using a method called staking, which think of, imagine a spark plug in your car. And ultimately, to activate that spark plug, you needed a certain amount of fuel, or you needed electricity to get it going. That electricity in blockchain is you are going to move a certain amount of money to this piece of software, and then it ignites. Similar type of scenario, and then that will then automate and do all of that work that miners typically would have done. It cuts down the cost. It reduces ultimately the carbon footprint, because we're all about tree hugging. And of course, the most important is, which I think people on your podcast will be excited, is that every transaction that happens. So anytime you buy that new pony in Zedrun, anytime
Zedrun, I'm writing that down.
Yeah, anytime you buy an NFT, anytime you purchase something on Ethereum, a piece of that transaction, so a small fraction of that amount of money, ultimately is then removed out of circulation, which means you have a declining supply, which I think is going to set this market on fire, because people get excited about Bitcoin. There's only 22 million Bitcoin, which, by the way, is not true, but let's go with that. 22 million. And there's a hard cap. There'll never be more. Well, if I told you that there's going to be less tomorrow than there is today, and then the following day, less than tomorrow, all of a sudden, this scarcity creates this demand, this buying pressure. And ultimately, we're seeing right now, we're in the early innings of this new sort of resurgence, this ignited enthusiasm around it. So keep a close eye. It's around $2,300 today. There's a number of factors that I think will play in the next 5 months, where we could certainly see that 12 to 15,000 for a single Ethereum.
Wow.
Now, how's that going to hold up against like a real heavy hitter like Hamster Coin? Because I have a friend who tweets about Hamster Coin a lot.
Yeah, that's the biggest threat to Ethereum.
You know what? It is. It's also hard to explain to a doctor. So anyway. I mean, there's nothing more to say than that.
Well, no, I do have a serious question that I think Hamster Coin and even Dogecoin really bring to light, and that is, does it matter if you're limiting the amount of coins created if you're not limiting the amount of different coins created?
So it all comes down to any coin that you talk about, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hamster Coin, it holds as much value as the public is willing to associate to it.
Right.
Just like art. at the end of the day, it's digital money. And if tomorrow the world turned its back, none of this would be worth anything. So, I love, and I'm in this camp, people who trash, Dogecoin and Hamster Coin, but then tomorrow go on these marketplaces called Sushi Swap,
Right.
and think nothing of it. We're all full of shit. You just get over yourself. Get over yourself.
Right.
Well, what Dan was referred to, though, was Jack Dorsey in that recent conference saying that Hamster Coin was the bigger threat to Bitcoin
Then Ethereum.
Yeah.
I think Jack Dorsey some of that beard oil he's using may have gone to his brain.
Right.
I don't know what he's thinking.
You don't agree, then?
I don't agree.
Do not agree.
But, if Twitter tomorrow decides that all transactions will be paid and settled in Hamster Coin,
Right.
I can see maybe a small case. I don't see it hitting $1 trillion, which is where Bitcoin is around right now. But
Yeah.
Well, here's one of the things I've always liked about Ethereum, and you touched on it a bit when you talked about giving the keys to the developers, and it's basically like the platform that everything else is built on. Whereas, like with Bitcoin, all the work done to create it is just busy work. Like, I like to see something with a thing that I want to invest in that has like some kind of positive use case. Whereas with Ethereum, you have that. I don't necessarily think you do with Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's not much different than if we were to look at the traditional market. If I said, most people, where do you want to invest? A lot of people will say, well, I want to put my money in the stock market because they're building things, there's utility, there's value that's being ultimately produced.
Right.
But
Earnings.
I'll put a little bit of money also in commodities, in precious metals. The fact is, though, that when it comes to Ethereum, and more so the projects that are built on it, the allure of buying these tokens on Ethereum is that by buying that token, you are, just like when you buy a share of stock, you are buying the right to share in future profits, utility, access, etc. So it gives you, an equity stake in these businesses, more so than I'm going to put my money in this one thing that really gets its value from just being limited.
Right.
To me, that doesn't really do much.
Yeah, it's like, you might as well buy Beanie Babies then.
Maybe. Or you know what? Or tokenized Beanie Babies. You can have best of both worlds.
I think they're working on that, actually.
Well,
yeah.
I think what Ed's describing, if you remember that guy, Nick Proughton from the Load Project, they had built a cryptocurrency and a business that was they have their own currency that's tracking silver and gold by making silver and gold purchases with the investments of people who buy the coins directly from them.
And then they had their
Synthetics.
other coin that's a piece of the actual, like you have the load tokens themselves too, right?
Right. That gave you X amount of crypto.
Like the equity share that he was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Synthetics. That's a very sticky situation. One that the SEC, Gary Gensler, who's the chairman, who coincidentally inherited this lawsuit against Ripple. Before, though, he was chairman, he used to be a computer science professor at MIT. So talk about getting your guy in the right position. This is one where he put the crypto world in check, where he said, while we figure out what digital asset, what virtual currencies could be deemed securities, why don't you guys kind of calm down with the synthetics and stop trying to pass that off as not a security. If I own Apple stock, or I own a virtual Apple stock, but it's pegged to actual shares, you own Apple stock. You own a security.
Yeah. I remember he was saying specifically it's classified as a bond. So it's like buying a bond in the company gives you a certain amount of crypto, like they'll pay you the interest in the crypto coins. It seemed confusing and
so that is the definition of a security. Security is, I'm going to invest in a company that is managed by someone else with the idea and intent to earn a profit. So I'm not going to do the work, but I'm going to profit on someone else's effort. That is an investment contract or security. That's ultimately sort of the thing that's at stake right now. And right now, there's a pretty monumental case going on between Ripple and the SEC, and it's absolutely entertaining because the SEC is just getting mauled in the courts right now.
Really?
Absolutely mauled. They are claiming that the current CEO of Ripple and the former CEO knowingly made a public offering of XRP, knowing that it was a security. And ultimately, the two defendants really took their gloves off and said, okay, we're going to depose two former commissioners within SEC who have now come out and talked about that the SEC intentionally have run unclear and vague guidelines in order to capitalize on lawsuits like this. And ultimately, it's gotten really bad. And more so, the court is now making the SEC give up internal memos that are supposedly really, really damning at the moment. So it's one where it's not good, at least from the SEC standpoint. But I think because it makes House of Cards look like a Disney movie a little bit. Some of the stuff that's coming out, but at the end of the day, what it will create is it'll push everything to go under one guideline. It'll clear things up, and ultimately, before any big institution or before people really sort of jump in with both feet, they have to know that there's some type of regulation. It's not the Wild West.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any more questions, Dan, or should we start? Should we move towards wrapping things up?
No, I think we should wrap things up. I asked my big question, and I actually got an answer, so I am the happiest host in the world.
Maybe offline I'll tell you exactly how to do it.
Oh, no.
Let's stop. He's asking for a friend.
Yeah, right.
Friend in India.
All right. Yeah.
I actually assure you, I have zero money offshore that I need to move around. It does not exist.
All right, I think I have 10 here. Okay. I really enjoyed the game we played with our last crypto expert, which was it's almost like, what do you call that? The 100,000 pyramid game?
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm going to give Dan a list of cryptos, and then Ed is going to try to guess them when Dan gives clues without saying the word.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to say what. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not allowed to say.
You can't say the actual word. Yeah.
The actual word.
But I guess I have to try and guess what cryptocurrency you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Here we go.
All right.
So I'm going to give you we'll see just how many we can get through in, say, like 2 minutes.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
All
I'm
right.
looking at Discord.
Ready? All right. Here's your first one.
Not Fahrenheit, but
Celsius.
Nice. I got to get these going faster.
if something was tiny and really small, I would say maybe I have a tiny little blank of this. It's also in the Greek alphabet.
Theta or nano?
No. This is
You can pass.
Pass.
All right.
God. So, like, if I was attaching something to something else, or I was playing a schoolyard sport with a pole and a ball attached to a rope that I'm swatting, it would
Tether.
Yes.
And the
Nice.
other one, I'm going to go back.
Okay.
Yep.
Iota.
Oh!
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. So
Very
if
nice.
I was going to have a balloon full of a gas that I breathed in to make my
Helium.
voice hot, Ben Affleck was the bomb in. Oh, that's a. If it was a ghost, maybe it's not a ghost or a spirit, but a. They say sometimes Batman is the blank menace.
Pass. I don't know.
It's a brand of razor. It's a planet in the sky.
Venus.
There we go. If I was on Tinder and I was making a decision, I would this left or right.
Swipe.
A beautiful flower. That's the
Orchid.
famous. Yes.
Man, he's good.
Sharks swim around the Great Barrier.
Reef.
Oh, come on.
Or ocean.
No, Reef is right.
Rhymes with hypnosis.
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to get that one. That was But that was pretty good. I think we got through 8 of the 10.
What was the Dark Knight one?
Phantom.
There it is. I was like,
I figured that would be easier if you just would have went Blanco the Opera.
Oh, shut up.
That's so much easier to judge on this end. The last one there was Gnosis.
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 Yeah, it's a wallet. How did I do? I think I did okay.
Yeah, 8 of 10.
You did really good.
Really good.
Rapid.
Blew through a few of
Boom,
those.
boom, boom.
Yeah, you know your crypto coins.
Then maybe we should end with a little bit of what Dchained is, where they can find you.
Yeah. So Dchained, as I mentioned before, it's an education platform that really is built to help people learn and also invest well and confidently in the crypto space. Whether you're just looking to figure out how to get started or you just simply don't have time for that and just want to know what to buy, we sort of serve everything in between. And to come over to check us out, we have a new promotion that we're running called Summer Gains, summergains.com. And of course, you can come check us out at Dchained, DChained.com. So summergains.com or dchained.com.
We'll put links to those in the description. What was the last one? Summer Games?
Summer Gains.
Gains.
People gain muscle, and I'm gaining a belly this summer. So Summer Gains.
Yeah. Okay. Got that too. All right.
Well,
Dan, you want to take us home?
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us, Ed. It's been so great having you. I truly mean that. This has been a good time, a real pleasure.
I appreciate you having me and also the appearance of my 2-year-old. So thanks for having him as well.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll need to get a release form from the 2-year-old to get those noises on the air.
I hope you're leaving them because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, his portfolio is not doing so well, so that's why he got high pitched.
That's why he was crying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Dad, I need to sell.
No!
Sell that, sell. Thanks so much for sticking around, folks. We hope you learned a thing or two about some crypto today. If you want to learn some more, check out those links from Dchained and Summer Gains in the episode description. And we'll be back at you soon, opening up the shop. But until then, we got to shut it down. And we'll see you later. Happy trades.
Bye, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Two Bulls in a China Shop is an entertainment program, and all thoughts and opinions expressed in the show belong to the hosts and not of any company. They are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security or investment product. It is only intended to provide entertainment about stocks in the financial industry of trading. If you make trades based on what you hear in this show, you assume all risks for those trades.